JUnit as a habit, not an afterthought. Appendix G, some basic Mockito methods. Mockito is a mocking and stubbing framework that is a great complement to JUnit. There are several scenarios when we would like to mock or to stub a class. These scenarios deal with ease of testing. In this appendix, we will explore some basic methods Mockito offers to make testing easier. Mockito is primarily a tool for foregoing full integration testing in favor of easy testing of objects with dependencies by creating mock instances of these dependencies. JUnit and Mockito together are very powerful. This is how you can get Mockito by using Gradle. Repositories jcenter, dependencies test compile, org.mockito, column Mockito core, column 3.7.7. And of course, we can import Mockito into IntelliJ IDEA by using the mechanism that we've been doing to import all the other stuff. Once you have Mockito installed within your development environment, you can augment your unit tests with mocking of various kinds. For example, if you are doing a Spring application and you have your controller, and your controller is injected with an instance of application service which uses a domain store or entity store at the backend, etc. You would like to test your controller without basically invoking the entire machinery of the application service object, and you mock the application service object. Alright, so basically you lighten up the dependencies of an object you would like to test, and you use those lightened up or mocked dependencies to enable lightweight testing, basically. And that's where Mockito comes in. Let us go to the Mockito documentation page for Mockito 3.7.7, the latest as of this course getting wrapped. This documentation is available at Mockito.3.7.7 documentation, and you can download the PDF file from the course's website and navigate to this page and click, control-click on this link, and you will be taken to that documentation. Let us explore some simple use cases there. This appendix is a foretaste of the GRG-003 JUnit and Mockito as a habit, not an afterthought video course, which is currently being developed by Anton Golovin and Associates LLC, the same company that has developed this course. Let us go to this documentation now. I'm in Mockito documentation by switching to the web browser. So we are here, well, actually, in the meanwhile, they came up with 3.8.0, but we are going to still use 3.7.7. They literally came up yesterday with 3.8.0. So basically, let's take a look at some Mockito methods. Here you can see that we are mocking the list class, and here we are adding the string 1. We're clearing the class, and then we are verifying that that's what exactly what the list mock did, that it added 1 and that it was cleared. Now, obviously, verify method is one of the principal methods of Mockito. It's not that terribly useful unless you want to make sure that the mock got called with exactly the same type of parameters that you want it to get called as. So next we're going to go to the when method, and the when method is the bread and butter of Mockito. Basically here we're going to mock the linked list class. So we're mocking the linked list class, and that creates a so far empty stub of the linked list class. And here we are populating the stub with some behavior. We're saying when we're going to get the 0th index element of the marked list, then return first, the string first. When we're going to get the first element of the marked list, then throw a new runtime exception. So we're basically adding behavior to the mock of the linked list class. And here, in fact, we're proceeding to get the 0th element of our marked list and the first element of our marked list. And this will print out first, the string first. This will throw a runtime exception as what we instructed it to do. And this will just return a null because we didn't provide any behavior to the mock that would result when we return an array of when we return an element at position 999, the 1000th element of a linked list. Alright, and we've stubbed our mock, and here we're verifying it, and like I told you before, it is possible to verify stubbed invocation, but it's just redundant unless we specifically want to know, for example, that we are invoking a method on our mock with a certain parameter values, for example, to make sure that the parameter values didn't get changed within the method we are testing. But that in itself is something that we may or may not want, or we just may not care. So we've taken a look at the verify method. It has its uses, but it's not terribly useful. We took a look at the when method. It's incredibly useful. Our when method, which stubs our mock, basically can also be used with argument matchers such as any x, such as any int, for example. Mock list contain arg that is valid, etc., etc. It has basically, instead of providing one value and invoking a lot of when methods, we can provide categories of values. For example, if we get any index, then it should return element, for example. So we're stubbing our mock with values that are categorical, that are category based, not individual values. Alright, and we can also verify our mock by using an argument matcher, which should return what we stubbed it with. So it should return element here. Alright, then we are going to skip that for the course. Here's how we stub a void method. A void method cannot be stubbed using when blah 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 dot do throw. We have to do it in reverse. Do throw a new runtime exception dot when mock list dot clear, for example. So whenever we clear our mock, throw a new runtime exception. The clear method returns a void, and that's why we have to do everything in reverse. Right. Here we have in order verification. We're going to skip it for our course. Here you can verify that no interactions happened on a mock. Verify 0 interactions. Verify mock never, etc., etc. Alright, so we can, you can see that we used to create this static mock method to create our mocks. We can also do better. We can just use the mock annotation like this, for example, by passing it as a annotation of a parameter. And we can do, I wonder where it is. So we're we can create mocks like that. We can use a add inject mock at the object that we would like to add our mocks to, and we could use add extend with Mockito extension.class. I believe it's called Mockito extension for JUnit 5 to enable Mockito within our JUnit 5 testing context. So that's how we would do that. Basically, you can see that Mockito is mostly about creating a mock and stubbing it, and sometimes about verification about what goes on with the mock. So that is pretty much what Mockito is about. Sometimes we can provide a custom-made answer if we don't want to utilize the available methods such as then return, then throw, etc. Then we can do instead then answer, and we can provide the implementation of the answer interface if we want some custom response to our stubbing. Right. Once again, when we have a method that returns void, we must use do return, do throw, do answer, do nothing, do call real method, and then whatever, and then dot when, and that's how we stub our mock when we're stubbing a method that returns actually void. If it doesn't return a void, we can do when something dot then throw, then return, etc. Right, spine I'm going to use in the actual course, and I'm going to skip most of these things. Well, inject mocks I already told you about. Add captor is a very useful annotation, but you'll have to listen to the course. We can verify something with timeout. That's often useful if you're doing something that's where time is of the essence. And let's see, various types of what I'm looking for. The last thing I want to show you why I'm scrolling and babbling is because I want to show you the extension that Mockito came up for JUnit 5, and I think is it which one? Advanced API for Mockito integration. I think it's called Mockito extension. Extension. Yes, okay. Alright, here we go. So the new JUnit Jupyter JUnit 5 Plus extension for integration with JUnit Jupyter, JUnit 5 Plus, use the work that Mockito blah 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 blah. That's what we need to provide in order to use Mockito with JUnit 5. And that's basically the extension that we will need to place within the add extend with annotation. And that is what will allow us to use the add mock annotation, add inject mock annotation, etc., etc. And I think I have given a somewhat perfunctory but representative coverage of the basic Mockito methods. So let us now switch back to our lecture, and let us go to the next slide. So coming back from the web browser, we have explored the basic Mockito functionality by going to the documentation within the video of the appendix, and please refer to that for any additional study that you want to do on your own. Basically, if you take away from this appendix the following: when, verify, at mock, at inject mocks, Mockito extension, do throw, etc. Do nothing, in order verification. Well, I didn't touch on that. So these particulars, but the common thing you should take from this appendix is that basically we want to, if we have a complex stack, we want to simplify it as much as possible. We want to test our components, and we want to provide its dependencies, if they are complex, as mocks. And we create a mock, we stub the mock, that is, we instruct Mockito what behavior the mock should have based on input parameters into the mock, and then we use the mock instead of that dependent component that might be difficult, time-consuming, cumbersome, etc. to test in conjunction with the actual component that we are testing. If we are testing a controller, for example, that gets an instance of an application service, well, we don't want to test the application service because it will invoke the domain store or DAOs or whatnot. It's going to go to the database, it might go to REST web service, etc. We just want to pass some stuff to it and get stuff in return that will be representative of how it works, and that's when we would use a Mockito framework. Alright, this exploration was very perfunctory, but should have given you a taste of Mockito capabilities. Please stay tuned for GRG-003, JUnit and Mockito as a habit, not an afterthought, an expert level course about joining JUnit and Mockito at the hip in your testing. And please check out the next appendix, Appendix H, Odds and Ends, which concludes this course.